Hey, back again. All right, now back for part 2 of the Q&A type videos, and on this next video I'm going to be covering navigation and fire. Okay, some of the questions that I've gotten asked in the past. And when I say navigation, it's not necessarily going to be more of a navigation type video. It's going to be more based on the one question that I got from a friend that he said, how do you avoid getting lost? Okay, so let's head down the trail and we'll take care of that situation on what I personally do. There's a million different ways of doing it, but this is the way that I see avoiding getting lost. So let's head down the trail and cover that. Alright, now first and foremost, the best way that I know of not getting lost is stay on the trail. Nothing can go wrong if you're on the trail. Now, above and beyond that, the other best bit of advice that I have than staying on the trail is carry a compass and a topographical map of the area that you're in. Okay? Now, when you have a topographical map, it's a lot better than any other type of map that I know of, because if you get lost, if you learn how to read a map, then you know all of the contours and the elevations, and if you know how to read all the contour lines of the map, then even if you do get lost when you're off the trail, you can pinpoint where you're at by using a compass. Now, that's a completely different part of navigation there that I'm not going to cover in this video, but you know, basically that's the best advice right there, is have a topographical map of the area that you're in and a compass, and know how to use them. Okay, that's another thing right there. Trail markers. See behind me? If you stick to the trail, there's going to be markers everywhere. Now, if you leave the trail and you want to go out exploring, there's a couple of different ways of doing it, and the best way to do it is you need to carry a compass with you. And when you're carrying a compass, like I say, know how to use it and trust what you're reading. So, all right, if you dare to leave the trail, the safety of the trail, then I'll show you a couple of things that I do. And like I say, there's a million different ways of doing it. This is just my personal opinion. So I'll show you what I do. All right, now, another wee little bit of advice before we get started out is, if you go to venturing off the trail and there is a potential of getting lost, then always carry with you a whistle. Okay, you need some kind of way of signaling, some kind of signal device. You know, whether it's a whistle or a mirror or some kind of flare or some kind of spotlight or something that blinks. Just anything that you can signal people. You know, it's to your advantage. If you leave the trail, you know, you may wind up lost. Okay, now, carry you a good compass. Okay, now, on top of that, not only carry a good compass, carry a backup compass. Okay, carry 2 compasses in case something happens to one of them. Now, learn how to use them, trust them. Okay, now, if you're going to go wandering off in the trail, don't just go wandering off aimlessly wherever you feel like going. What I do personally, when I leave a trail, I plot a course and I stick to the course. Now, when you want to really truly talk about getting lost, you're going to be panicking, you're going to be scared, you're going to be in like a state of shock. So what I do is, when I say pick a course, go by, just remember this. It's stupid. My brother always taught me, when things are so stupid, you'll remember them. So just remember, ew-wee. Okay? Ew-wee. That stinks. All right, now, what ew-wee means is, when you're on the trail and you're just going to go wandering off aimlessly out into the bush, the ew-wee is E-W-W-E. Okay? Simple to remember. You'll never forget it. And what that means is that when you leave the trail, you are going from east to west. Okay? You're going in a west distance. Now, once you're there, you're going from west traveling east. Okay? Now that's going to be easy right there to pick up with your compass, okay? So therefore what you do then is you take your compass, okay? You take your compass and you find, let's say, like I said, we're going from east to west, okay? So we're heading west. So you pick a westerly object, okay? Well, you want to use a method that's called dead reckoning. And what dead reckoning is it keeps you in a straight line when there's a bunch of objects in your way, like trees, hills, mountains, all that kind of stuff. And like, say for example, if you was out in the open in prairie lands or deserts, it would be easy. But here in the thick bush, this is all I know. And it's hard to navigate around. And the way I avoid getting lost and staying in a straight line, because you can't be constantly looking at your compass and looking up, looking at it, and looking up all the time whenever you're traveling, because you'll be bumping into everything, tripping over vines and thorns. So anyway, what I do is I look and I find my west direction, okay? All right, now what I've done is I'm aiming it directly. There's a hardwood tree right there, okay? There's a bunch of pine trees, but I'm looking at that hardwood tree, okay? Now there's a tree right behind me here that I'm looking at. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna travel from this tree to that tree, okay? Now, that's gonna be my first move off the trail. All right, now I have arrived at my tree right here, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm looking right here through my compass. I'm standing right here directly in front of this tree, okay? Like I'm blinding you with my compass. I'm standing right here in front of this tree, okay? Now, remember, I'm traveling from east to west, okay? So what I'm doing is I'm looking this way and I'm standing my object. And another thing I can do is I can stand back and I can look at the object that I just came from right there. And what I'm gonna do is I'm traveling around. Remember, easy to remember, going from east to west. That means when I take my compass and I aim it directly back at my object, it should be pointing east. If I'm off a little bit, something's wrong, okay? Now, what I'm gonna do is I've got this object. I'm gonna pick another object up front and I'm gonna walk to it, okay, to the west. And then I'm gonna turn around and I'm gonna look back at this object. And if I can still see that object, that tree, I'll know that I'm in a straight line, okay? Simple enough, ain't it? All right, now, let's move on to the next part of it right here. All right, I'm in line. Now, as you've noticed, I don't have the cord on my compass anymore. Well, let's just say that your compass gets lost. Oh my. Okay, now, what you've done is if you plotted a course and you went from east to west, okay, and you fell down a cliff or you lost your backpack or you smashed your compass or you lost it or you got injured or whatever, how are you going to find your way home? Okay, well, if you plotted your way in, what you can do, you know you traveled from east to west and you want to go home from west to east, okay? So the reason I choose that is simply because the sun, it rises in the east and it sets in the west, okay? So therefore, depending on how far are you from the equator and what time of day, what you can do is possibly you can look at the shadows. And if you're going home early, trying to find your way home, then the sun is rising in the east, okay? So the sun is going to be rising straight up overhead, okay? It's going to be right in your eyes. And you just try your best to try to follow it, because if you have nothing else, you know, and you're lost, you can do that. And then another thing is if you leave late in the day, late in the day, sun rises in the east, sets in the west. Well, you know, you're now traveling from west to east. That means that the sun is going down behind you. And depending on the area you are because of declination and things, you could very well follow your shadow out. Your shadow's going to be in front of you. I mean, it's not real accurate, but it can basically get you out of there, okay? Now, I'll go over a couple of other little tricks that I know of for if you want to leave the trail and you can't read a compass or you don't have a compass or you're just too stubborn to use one. So let's go take a look and see what we can do then. All right, now another thing that you want to do is if you want to leave the trail, and this is another way too that it's handy for if you get lost and you think you're going in the right direction. Now let's say you know your location. You're lost. You kind of know your location. You kind of know where you've been. You kind of know where you're going. But you think you're guessing it a way out. All right. So what you do is you still use dead reckoning. You try to go in a straight line because you always walk in a curve and you walk in circles before you know it. As a matter of fact, dare I say, there should be a test that you do real quick while I got you here. Take your compass and go out in the woods. Okay, do this. Hold your compass up. Okay, pick a direction. Okay, look at your compass and just stare off into the distance. And don't pick out an object. Okay, because that would be dead reckoning. Just look in that direction, okay, and try to get your feel for that direction. Okay, let's say pick north, okay? Put your compass away. Don't pick out an object, just walk, okay? Now walk and walk and walk. Try to use your sense of direction. When you get there, okay, walk about 5 minutes. After you've gotten there, pull out your compass and hold it right in front of you, and you look and you see how far off you are. You talk about an eye-opener. Woo! That's an eye-opener. Okay, now back to the tape. A lot of people carry tape, okay, with their kit. A lot of people will carry that green-looking duct tape. Won't do you in this case. If you're going to leave the trail or try to find you an area, carry the most obnoxious color that you can. Okay, and what you do is when you're doing your dead reckoning, or should I say, every object you come up to, take you a piece of tape, and wait a minute, this ain't long enough. Silly me. Well, I can use 2 pieces. All right, let me hang this on the tripod right here. And what you want to do is you want to take the tape, and then you want to take the tape and wrap it around the tree. And see how I've got a little flag on it? What that little flag means is that is the direction that I am heading, okay? Now you see how bright that is? It's better if you've got an orange or a yellow, but I don't have any orange or yellow with me. And see, instead of just wrapping it around the tree and saying, ooh, I was here, you've got this marker it's aiming in the direction that I have headed. And that way when I get there, if that ain't where I need to be, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to follow these back. And I'm going to know what direction. See, then I can use dead reckoning to get my way back, because then I could take this right here and I could look and I could see where I've been. And another important thing too is a lot of people, whenever they get lost, they're like, well, I don't recognize this. Well, you want to know why they don't recognize it? That's because they never turned around and took a look behind them. Like for example, let me just show you here for a minute. Let me move this camera here for just a minute. All right, now, like I said, I'm going to kind of show this to you to prove a point, okay? Let's say that I'm walking along, okay, and I'm heading in one direction and I never look back. Well, when I get lost and I try to turn around and come back, I'm like, I don't recognize this. Kind of like, for example, this tree right here. If I just walk on past it and never look back, when I come back by, it may not have any distinguishable features. Start looking for things. Like for example, if I'm walking in this direction, okay, and I look back, I'll tell you what I see. Let me move you here. See on the back side of this tree? It's got a vine growing out of it. That is exactly what I'm talking about, okay? As you're walking in your chosen direction, always turn around and take a look behind you too. Okay, and I'll sum up by saying that leaving the trail is a risky thing, and don't just go wandering off aimlessly, not knowing what you're doing. You know, have some sort of a basis for a direction of where you're going. You know, because the thing is if you know where you're headed, you're going to know how to get back. Okay, hope that wasn't too boring. I got one more quick question, and I'm going to answer while we're heading down the trail, if I can find my way back. And then we'll get on the fire. Now, another something that somebody asked me one time is they said that they asked, what is a handrail and what is a baseline? Okay, well, they're not the same thing. They're similar, but they have a different meaning. Okay, and what a handrail or a baseline is it's something that whenever you're traveling and you know your route and you got a map and you know distinguishable features, what they are is they're something that occurs along your path, like a creek or train tracks or power lines or a cliffside. And the difference between them is a handrail is literally exactly what it says. It's something that you hold on to the whole way. A handrail is something that you can, and when I say it's a handrail and you hold on, it's because it's something that you can see the whole way. You can follow it the whole way, like a creek. And a baseline is something that you'll see off and on. You won't necessarily see it the whole time, but it's there. It'll pop up. It's along your route, but you'll only see it at certain intervals. Maybe hidden by a cliff or something. So they're very handy, and that's basically the difference. So now is the fun part. No more boring navigation. Let's move on to the fire. Let me go find a good spot. I gotta find where I'm at first. Hey, before we move on to fire, one other very, very important thing that I forgot to mention about navigation and getting lost. If you don't have tape with you, another thing is as you're going along your route and you might want to come back, if you don't have tape, what I do is take 3 sticks, okay, and beside whatever distinguishable tree that you pick out, what I do is I stab these 3 sticks in the ground, okay, and then one of them is going to be a stick with a fork with a little branch hanging off of it, okay, and then what you do, well, that went in the ground too deep. Alright, now what you do there is you put them in the direction you're going, and then you have the forked stick pointing in the direction you're going, just like the tape. Okay, I always have that. That'll be easy to remember, that even if you wrap the tape around a tree and it's going in that direction, well, if you don't have the tape, make that stick, the leading stick, pointing in the direction that you went. Okay, you're not going to see anything like this in nature, so you'll know then that that was you and you left that. So just another little tip. Alright, this right here looks like a pretty decent little spot. Oh, to have a sit down. Always check for ants. Alright, now when it comes to fire, there's several different ways of making fire, and it's always a good idea to have more than one way of making fire. Okay, so let me get some of this stuff off right here, and then we'll dig through my little bag of tricks right here and see what I've got in here to start with. Alright, I got you down here where I can you can see what I'm doing. Let's dig out this first bag here. Got a little tender hand drill. What's in here? Alright, let's start out with flint and steel. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about it because somebody had asked me some things. Basically, with flint and steel, what flint and steel is, let me pull this out. This is a kit, okay? Sometimes you can get kits like this, and they will come with a piece of steel, and then they will come with a piece of flint, okay? And you can either use some jute twine, and sometimes you can use, sometimes you can actually use charred wood. And then, of course, a lot of people will use char cloth. Let's see if I can get this open. And so I carry a little bit of char cloth with me whenever I carry flint and steel. I'll show you that in a minute. Now, the way it works is what it is the flint is sharp, okay? What this does is this, as you spark it, sparks come off, okay? And the sparks will catch on to char cloth or whatever you have sitting on top. Now, this is pretty cool right here, but the question was asked to me, what happens when this gets dull, okay? Well, if you got a piece of bone you can nap it, okay? If you don't have a nap, then you're in trouble, all right? So, and this also leads to another question. If somebody asked me, what's the best material for Flint and steel? Well, to me, an old file is the best one. Now see, here's another version of it. See this little file right here that was bent? And it's pretty much shaped the same way. Most of them you will see is the same way, okay? People carry flint and steel in a little bag, okay? But when you have them that has the rounded edges like that, they really don't do that much good whenever your flint loses its edge. What I use is a bizarre looking shape like this cut out of a file, okay? Now what this is done is this was cut out with a, you can cut it out with a torch or a plasma cutter. And the second you cut it out, you throw it in water to keep it hard, okay? Because the harder the better. Now, it's got this bizarre shape because it makes it easier to hold this way as you're making the sparks with it. Let's see if I can get you on camera. Now see that right there? Do you see the number of sparks coming off of that? A file like this really puts off the most sparks. Now, as far as this getting dull, I have edges on this thing, okay? Now what those edges are for is that you can use them for napping a new edge on your flint, okay? I'd have to set it on the ground to do it, and this is all sharp all the way around, but that's the thing. When you want to cut out something like this right here, you can do it that way. And another thing is you can put your fingers around it and get a good grip on it to use it for breaking a new edge on flint, okay? But that's basically it right there. And you lay, well, let's go ahead and lay this on there real quick. While I got it here, I'm doing it. And you don't even need much char cloth. And see, if you got a good piece of flint, a lot of times you can get it in a, say it's not a sharp enough edge. Let me find it. There's a sharp edge. You lay it on top. Nope. There it goes. So alright, I'm going to try to give you a little bit closer up view of this. You lay the char cloth on top. Sometimes char cloth, if it gets old, it'll get a little bit of moisture in it. Okay, see that? Let me switch this over. Wait a minute, let me try it again. See, it's as simple as that. Whew. Starting to feel it on my hand. Alright. You've seen that before. Alright, let's move on to the ferro rods. Alright, moving on along, let's move on along to ferro rods. Now, this is probably going to wind up causing a big argument. But I have been asked before, are all ferro rods the same? Are they different? Which is the best? Okay? Well, I have my opinion on that. And there's all different kinds of ferro rods. Okay? Like, for example, where's that one at? I can't find it. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. You got some that are they're just normal, plain old ferro rods that come with a striker. Okay? And then you've got some, like this Bear Grylls ferro rod, it comes with a little bit better striker. Okay? Now, dare I make the statement that all ferro rods are pretty much the same except for the striker. Now, if you're just going to run out and buy one, to me, the Strike Force made by Ultimate Survival Technologies is the Mac Daddy of them all. Because not only does it have a rather large ferro rod, it's got one of the best strikers that you can get. You know, I mean, it throws off some serious sparks. And then on the back side, you got a cap that opens up and you can keep a little tinder in there. So that's just a fantastic piece of kit right there. Okay. You got other ones. You got ferro rods that hang on necklaces like this right here. This was made by a friend of mine. It's just a normal ferro rod, and this is pretty cool because you can hold on to it with 2 fingers, and it gives you a little bit more of a grip. And of course, you can hang it around your neck. Now I've got another one. I got a special made one that hangs around your neck that's in the truck. I'll show you on the way out. And then of course you got ferro rods like this. It's made to fit inside a knife pouch. It's telescoping. This is homemade. This is made by a friend of mine. It comes with a pretty good striker. I haven't used that one much. I haven't got all the coating off of it. That was part of my emergency kit. This is one that was made by Snap-on John. I think Snap-on John 150, I think that was his name. He made it for me. It's made out of a bone. It's pretty good. Antler. Alright, that strikes good. That's got a good striker. That striker there is from firesteel.com. They make good strikers. There's another just old plain Jane one. This is what I'm going to use to show you in just a minute to prove a point. Wazoo survival gear, they got a little keychain that's got a ferro rod inside this keychain wrapped up in paracord. That's pretty cool. Now, this is what I'm going to show you right here. This is the reason why I say that most ferro rods are the same. To my opinion, from what I've used, it all depends on the striker. Okay, let me get you up where I can show you a little bit more of this. Alright, now what this is this is a homemade device. Okay, what it is it's just 2 pieces of plastic, and the way it is cut, it's rounded, kind of got rounded ends, and then it's got sort of a rounded part in the middle where you can grab it. Now you can use this as a piece of plastic. You can use it for crushing acorns, okay, like if you want to make acorn flour, or you can use it for driving tent pegs. You can just, whatever you want to do with it, okay, it's good for it. Now, when you open it up, okay, what it has is I took a part of a broken machete, and then I carefully cut it, quenched. I never let it get real hot. I cut it and sharpened it into a small chisel on the end, and then I sharpened the sides flat, okay. Now this is my striker, and not only is it my striker, but it's also a chisel on the end. And then you can take you can either beat on it with a piece of wood, or you can take the other end and you can hit it like this. So you can use it as a chisel. You can chisel your way across wood, like if you're making notches for if you're making like a trap or a snare or something. Just any kind of carving duties you got to do, or if you're going to cut a square hole into something. Okay. Now, why I say all ferro rods are the same, in my opinion, I may be wrong, it's just my opinion. Let's take, for example, this right here. This is one of those, I think it's pronounced Coglins, I'm not real sure, but anyway, it comes with a stamped, crappy piece of sheet metal. Alright? Now, I want you to look at this ferro rod right here with this crappy piece of sheet metal, okay? Are you seeing the sparks that are coming off of this? Alright, now, look at old Dave's striker. See? Big difference there. Same ferro rod. It's all about the striker. See that shower of sparks? That's why I say it. Same ferro rod. A lot of people will buy these ferro rods, and then they'll just get a wimpy little set of sparks coming off of it, and they'll be like, oh, that ferro rod ain't no good. I say, I'm just now getting some pretty good ones right there. Okay? I like to back up my statements. The striker is the most important part. Okay? There's the difference. Same ferro rod. Now, if you ever get a broken knife or a broken machete, make you something like this. Okay? It doesn't have to win a beauty contest. This turned out pretty good because I ground this and then I pressed it into this block. And then I took another block and then I drilled a bunch of holes in it. And I got it to where it'll push together. And then once I did that, I did all this work to the outside. I milled it on the milling machine. Now if you had to, you could just sand it probably. And you could even make it out of wood if you wanted to. But if you ever have a broken machete or a knife, it's a valuable thing. Alright? Now let's move on to, I got a friction fire. I got a question about the bow drill. Let's try to cover. All right, next up is the bow drill. Okay, now I am by no means an expert at the bow drill. Okay, but I can do it, and I know a little bit about it, and I've done it for years. Now, this may cause some controversy, but I must make the statement: I hate the bow drill. Ain't that horrible? No, I hate the bow drill because I like the hand drill better, because the hand drill has less working parts. Okay, it has much less working parts. There's a lot to a bow drill, and I mean I do it, no big deal, but like I said, it ain't one of my favorites. Now, somebody had asked me one time that they had said that they're having problems. They're having problems with the spindle. I mean, not the spindle. Yeah, they're having trouble with the string, the cordage slipping. Well, on the cordage part, I can say this right here, that if you use paracord, you're going to be asking for trouble. A lot of people like it, but I personally don't use it. This is some good cordage here. This is from that Hillebrand tent maker. That is some good cordage right there. Another really good cordage is leather to me. Leather, you can't beat it. It's one of the best. Okay. Now, paracord will slip, yes. Now, this right here, let me wrap this thing back up. This one came apart. This I threw together real quick. This could be part of your problem. You see how this is made? There's not much room in here. Okay. Let me dig out this spindle here, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about the difference in these. The way this is almost straight, and I've seen a lot of bow drills this way, and this is naturally curved. You want a naturally curved stick. You don't want one real straight, and I'll show you why. Let me get this stuff out. All right, now I kind of moved you down here a little bit closer, and I dug everything out. Okay, and once again, like I say, I like to store my hearthboard and spindle in aluminum foil, because you know it's nice to carry aluminum foil anyway, but it also kind of helps keep the moisture out. Okay, now sometimes it helps if you're going to make up these. Some people put bearings from skateboards or roller skates into their bearing block. But what I do is I use a piece of Teflon, okay? Because you don't have to lubricate it or anything. Now, if you're just out in the woods and you take a regular old piece of wood and you carve a dimple into it, you can put green grass in there to help lubricate it. Now, these things right here, I know a lot of times you don't have much of a choice, but a lot of people will make a bow drill just like this. Now, the problem with this is, to me, let's see, put this in on the inside, and then you turn it up, okay? And then you set it in there, put your foot on it. Now, the problem with this is, let's put this on here. Alright, wait a minute. Here I am fumbling around looking like an idiot. Well, this is why I'm telling you I hate the bow drill. Okay, you got this, and you're spinning it, okay? Here's the deal. You see where my hand is right here? I have no choice but just to hold on to this. Okay? Now, the reason I don't like these that are up pretty straight, the reason I like the ones that have a curve to them, is because of the way you can tighten up. Because once you get going, hold it burnt side up on the inside, give it a twist, okay, and you're there. Alright, let me run it down here. See, here we go again. Now, here's the thing. Alright, wait a minute, that spindle's too big. See, I don't like adjusting these. Burnt side up, twist it, set it in place. Okay, now, the way I'm holding this, see where my hand is? Right here, where my thumb is right here. Now before, the string was closer to the bow, okay? Now, that's why I said it, you have what you have, okay? But when you've got a bow that is curved like this, check this out. You can put one finger right here. What I'm doing is I'm humming along here with it, okay? And if it starts slipping, I can pull. See right there how I'm pulling? If you are slipping on the bow drill, see right there? The faster it got a little smoke coming off. I'm not going to make a fire with this. The faster it got, the more that slipped. And that's the trick. Because see what I'm saying is when you're on here with this, you just grab it and you're just at the mercy of this old straight stick. This one you hold on here and the string is going to be out here, and so you'll have the ability to put a little extra pull on it. So you see, these are the only two bow drills that I have, and they're both curved. Alright, enough of that. Let's move on to my favorite now, the hand drill.